Jimmy Butler was born in a small town called Tomball on the outskirts of Houston, Texas. By the age of 13, his mother kicked him out of the house, telling Jimmy, "I don't like the look of you. You gotta go." Jimmy would bounce around friends' homes, often sleeping on the couches for extended periods of time. He had good people around him that would take him in. Jimmy often says, "I was never homeless. I was not living under a bridge. That's homeless. Not the easiest of times, but I had a home." Things would change for Jimmy during his senior year when he became friends with a former football player, Jordan Leslie, after challenging him to a three-point shootout. They soon became close friends, and Jimmy was essentially adopted into their family as a surrogate son, already adding to the 7 biological children. Jimmy credits their mother, Michelle Lambert, as being very loving. He claims, "They accepted me into their family, and it wasn't because of basketball. She just did stuff like that. I couldn't believe it." As a high school senior, Jimmy won Player of the Year at Tomball High, averaging 19.9 points per game, 8.7 rebounds. However, he was not heavily recruited and ranked 73rd in the state of Texas at the time. People called him an afterthought, and Jimmy wound up at Tyler Junior College. During his freshman year at Tyler, Jimmy averaged 18.1 points per game, 7.7 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. Considered a 2-star recruit, he was listed number 127 on the junior college prospects list. Fortunes would change for Jimmy when the head coach of Marquette, Buzz Williams, noticed Jimmy while scouting one of his teammates at Tyler. With 1 week left to fill the roster, Williams was scrambling to find players. Jimmy's teammate, Joseph Fultz, suggested they bring him into the program. Jimmy would soon find himself on the way to a D1 program, stating, "I was going to be able to go to college and get a degree. That was my dream, my goal." When Butler arrived at Marquette, he had no coat or winter clothing for the first day of school. Coming from Texas, he didn't know what to expect. Jimmy and Coach Williams soon developed a great relationship. Both from small towns in Texas, they had a lot in common, specifically the fear of falling short in the wider world, only to be forced into a small town life without any real future. Williams would make sure Jimmy would succeed, stating, "I coached him in a manner that bordered on inhumane because of his background. He had no plan B, no escape route. He was willing to do whatever I asked him to," pushing Butler to the extreme, even surpassing the standard of future NBA teammates Wes Matthews and Lazar Hayward. Williams would tell him, "You're not very good, or you can't guard this guy." This kind of motivation worked for Jimmy, crediting Williams and expressing his relationship with him. "That's why I will always love him to death for the rest of my life, because he knew the buttons to press that could get me going." Jimmy would rack up the accolades in both his junior and senior seasons, earning all Big East honors while averaging 15 plus points per game. During graduation, Jimmy received the farewell letter from Coach Williams that read 4 steps. 1. Read more than you think you should. 2. Write down everything about everything. 3. Build trustful relationships for 10 years from now. 4. Give God 10%. Save 30%. Live on 60%. Signed, I love you, Buzz. Moving on to the NBA, Jimmy was selected with the last pick of the 2011 first-round draft by the Chicago Bulls. As an initial utility defensive specialist, teammate and veteran Rip Hamilton took him under his wing, believing Jimmy could develop into an elite offensive weapon. Alongside Rip, Jimmy trained with coach Chris Johnson, crediting the coach for giving him the confidence he needed to develop his new skills. Ranking in top 10 for minutes played each season, Jimmy was a true workhorse, which head coach Tom Thibodeau loved. Chicago offered him a 4-year, $42 million extension, which Jimmy turned down to bet on himself. It would soon pay off, as Jimmy finally earned his first All-Star selection in the 2014-15 season. He later won the NBA's Most Improved Player award and signed a 5-year, $95 million extension that offseason. Jimmy was traded to the Timberwolves during the 2017-18 season for Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and Lauri Markkanen. He led the team to the playoffs, but was never comfortable in the organization. He soon requested a trade and was dealt to the Sixers just 13 games into the second season with the Wolves. Teaming up with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris, there were high expectations in Philadelphia. Championship or bust. The Sixers secured the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference, making it to the second round against the Toronto Raptors. In Game 7 of the series, Jimmy hit a game-tying layup with 4.2 seconds to go. Not having any of that, Kawhi hit an iconic game-winning buzzer beater. This would be his last moment as a Sixer, and the look of the team that could have potentially dominated the East for years to come. Traded to Miami in the 2019 offseason, Jimmy would never look back, finding his true home. 4 seasons later, and 2 NBA Finals appearances, Jimmy hopes to bring the Larry O'Brien Trophy back to South Beach. This is going to be Jimmy Butler's second Finals appearance, and could end up being his first ring, which is crazy. It would be the second team, 8th seeded team to go in the finals, but if they win, it will be the first 8th seeded team to ever win the NBA championships. One funny thing that recently came up, Jimmy Butler filed a trademark for Himmy Buckets. It would be for his merch and beverage brand. That's actually a really fire name too. Himmy Buckets for a beverage is kind of funny, but I know people are gonna buy it, especially if they win this year.
I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, and
Remember when Tyler Hero made wasn't it a cereal box or something? Like no one bought that shit. So some fun facts about Jimmy Butler that you probably never heard before.
he's best friends with Neymar after hanging out with him in the 2016 Olympics. He loves country music. That's his favorite type of music, and he usually eats his dessert before the main course, which is very psychotic behavior.
That's actually insane. I've never heard of that before. Also, he's a wine connoisseur. He owns over 500 bottles of wine. He's made the playoffs in 12 out of 13 of his NBA seasons. And he's a vlogger, and he vlogs about literally everything. He's such a cool player on and off the court. Everyone loves Jimmy Butler.
Everyone's rooting for him, and that's what I love. Himmy Butler. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into our Jimmy Butler Player Spotlight, and we do these every week, so we would like for you to tune in. /SistersP on YouTube and Twitter. Thank you guys
so much for watching. We appreciate you guys.